back to, I guess if you will, my art vlog and whatnot. Of course, as you can see, this stuff has accumulated in my room. Back here, I should probably do that. I got some Tandy leather supplies to work on some leather products, and of course, as I mentioned in last video, I have some leather journals that will be in the description below if you want to check out the whole Gondor journal, basically, if you will. Really nice handcrafted piece of stuff. So yeah, what are we going to talk about today? I'm working on uploading the last video right now, but I'm hoping it's good response. I'm hoping. We discussed in the last video how the importance of art in society is actually really, really important. I know that sounds a little bit redundant, but it is. And whatnot. And there's a slew of things we can talk about. Wanted to mention before we get started, one is that please check out all the links in the description below. It features my website, my personal website that is, my Etsy shop, and then also to my my Facebook page, which features all the art stuff that I do, as well as my YouTube videos sometimes, and all that stuff. So go ahead and check it out. I apologize. It is really hot, uncharacteristically hot for Monterey today. I was just out to meet a client. And just got back, basically, and it's warm. I shouldn't even be wearing a long sleeve t-shirt. It's warm out. 70s, which is just like, what? And what's funny is that last Monday, it was freezing cold wind. Last Monday and Sunday. Sunday even was colder, and that was just like, what? And this is a week later that this is happening. I'm just like, I don't understand this. But that's what we do. I wanted to talk today about a novel concept, about how anybody in the world can create art and draw any piece or do anything with art. Just let that sink into your minds for a moment. Anybody in the world can do art. I know that's a big and daunting thought for a lot of people, but hear me out. I get asked all the time, or I get told all the time, that how my pieces look and really amazing, and that there's a lot of talent and skill that goes into it. And then the side thing that they interject afterwards, like the people that come by, if they're non-artists, are, I'm grateful if I can even draw stick figures kind of thing. How in the world do you think I got started? How in the world do you think artists got started? We had to start somewhere. We didn't just pick up a pencil and just all of a sudden draw masterpieces that are equivalent to like Da Vinci kind of thing. No. It took several years at least, if not more, to develop our skills and to work with materials. The thing I want people to realize is that anyone can draw. Anyone. And I know there's a lot of things out there that say they're kind of like the whole commercial aspect. This is a non-paid video, first of all, I would mind you. And I will tell you that they are true. 100%. Anybody, if they put their mind to it, if they do some research, if they do practice, can be skillful in art. Can have as much talent in art. Now, I'm going to break some things down for you in terms of trying to wrap your head around this. The first and foremost thing that I think is important for any artist across the board to do, and for anyone who is looking into being an artist across the board, is that you have to have the drive and the inspiration in order to create stuff. I think that's first and foremost. Um, Nothing else before that. You need to have the ability to really create for yourself, first off, because you're doing this mostly for you, believe it or not. Each and every one of my pieces that I work on, uh, each and every one of the pieces, each and everything that comes from my mind and from me is something that is out of what I do, or I'm using inspiration from somebody else to kind of create my own thing. I have a painting that's going on right now in one of my classes that is inspired from Star Wars. Now, while of course, technically I'm borrowing from an idea, this is an actual original concept that you don't even see in any of the films or TV shows. It features, I won't give away too much, but it basically features Captain Rex from the Star Wars The Clone Wars series, the 2008 version, witnessing Order 66 take place. And for those of you who don't know a whole lot about Star Wars, Order 66 is the order that Emperor Palpatine gave for the clones, the clone army of the Republic, which now is switched over to basically being the Imperial Army, has been given the order to wipe out all the Jedi. Captain Rex is a clone, and yet he is one of only a handful of clones that does not execute this order. He's very loyal to the Republic, he's very loyal to the Jedi, and he's torn. He's torn between having to fight his brothers, basically, or people he called brothers, and at the same time save the Jedi. He's stuck in a rock and a hard place, so to speak. And this painting is gonna, do that. But that's one aspect of where I get inspiration from other things to kind of create original pieces around. And that's important as an artist to, find inspiration in things around you. The second part, going back to kind of the step-by-step process of what you need to be an artist, is knowing and understanding your materials. I cannot emphasize this enough. Many times I have seen artists go into it with gusto, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You will find that for a lot of pieces, a lot of testing needs to be involved. I do that constantly with my Copic markers, for example, because I am, as I mentioned in the last video, part colorblind in various areas. I need to test constantly not only the markers to make sure they work as far as they'll work as a overall color scheme for the piece, but also too to make sure that what I'm testing in terms of on the paper looks and feels right. A lot of people don't do this, and that's where a lot of perspective artists and people who are just beginning really find frustration and get into trouble. About a year ago, from the time of this video, basically, about a year ago, my fiance actually had me start doing portraits. And I was a little hesitant at first to do portraits because a very one sole reason is that humans across any medium, it doesn't matter whether it's drawing, ceramic, sculpture, painting, whatever, animation, all that, are very, very tough to replicate in an art piece. They're very tough. First and foremost is that you need to do a lot of testing in order to understand proportions, shapes, and really just how shadow and light fall on the human form. The other reason why they're so tough is because a lot of people think that the human body is symmetrical. You will find that that is far beyond the case. There is no person on Earth that has ever walked on this earth, that ever is walking on this earth right now, or ever will have a 100% symmetrical body or face. What I mean by that is if you take the human body, say my face for example, if I hold it straight like this, and you draw a line down the center of the face, you will find that my face is not 100% symmetrical. I haven't studied my face a whole lot. I know that my eyes and eyebrows are a bit, mishmash in terms of the verticalness. My mouth is a bit weirdly shaped in terms of that. My ears aren't 100% symmetrical. So that's just one example out of billions of people that are not symmetrical at all. The only symmetry you'll ever find of any human figure in art are really for those that are intentional drawings. Like they're static. They're like, for example, the Egyptian pyramid, not the pyramids, the Egyptian sculptures for the pharaohs and their wives and all that stuff. Those are very, very symmetrical. There are some elements that are formulaic, meaning that there is some variation in how they're statured and everything, and how they're formed. But their face and their body, for the most part, very, very symmetrical. And there's nobody on Earth that's like that. And of course, the Egyptians in that aspect did that very intentionally, as their pharaohs were depicted as gods on Earth. So that's one aspect to look at. Another aspect to look at is, I'm sorry, I'm just working on some video stuff at the moment. So that's those are the two reasons as to why I didn't want to do portraits. But surely enough, I did. I started doing them, and the thing that made it really easy was I got to choose. And these were based off of photographs. This is how I have done a lot of my portraits. I've worked off of photographs. I really study how the face is formed, how the proportions are. And often I'll actually turn the image upside down along with the piece and work upside down in order to really focus on the proportions. I know that sounds a little weird to people, but it really does help. It helps you not focus on the piece so much, but it actually makes your brain focus on how the shapes and the proportions are aligned with each other in reference to the picture that you're looking at. And that really goes with anything that you're looking at. You really find the proportions add up a lot more accurately when you do that. So surely enough, I started doing that. And the first few portraits that I did, they were good, but I knew I could do better. And I do all these portraits in black and white. And for the sole reason, as I mentioned before, I'm colorblind. There's actually a gift I gave my fiance about a year ago, something like that. I can't remember which. It might have been a year and a half, something like that. And this is a piece that I did of the two of us at my community college graduation. And while the piece at the time was good, there's still elements that, needed to be improved. And of course, I did this piece in color, and thus the color itself wasn't 100% great. And so what I want to do, given that I've gained a little bit more knowledge, I want to go back and do that piece over again in black and white and really see what I've done over this year of learning about portraits and whatnot. And this is individual study. All these portraits that I'm talking about, this is completely on my own. No class, no assignments. This is my doing. This is for my own learning. So it was really quite a unique experience to be able to do this and all that. And I gotta say, I am really happy with how things turned out. There's a piece that I started... Oh, what was it? It was a piece that involved Craig McLachlan, who is an Australian actor, or he might be British. I don't know what nationality he is, but he's most known for right now a program called Dr. Blake Murder Mysteries, um, which is based from an Australian company, and it's around 1940s, 1950s, post World War II in Australia, and it's this doctor who helps solve mysteries and whatnot. And he's a coroner for the police, as well as a professional. He's a doctor, and all that kind of stuff. But it's a really well done thing, and I love the actor that they got to play Dr. Blake, whose name is Craig McLachlan, and I did that piece, and I want to redo that because there's been plenty that I've learned since that first installment that that I want to do it again, basically, and kind of go back and see how well I do with the second go around, which is really quite unique. But where I'm going with all of this is in learning about all the portraits and whatnot, I learned of the importance of testing out the materials and whatnot. I actually found after 3 or 4 portraits in that for how I work, Bristol paper which is usually used with markers in that kind of medium, with mechanical pencil or really any graphite pencil works really well on Bristol paper. Like those two are made for each other and I say this because I smooth out a lot of the shading and a lot of the details and whatnot, and then I go back and do some details if needed. But that smoothness I wouldn't be able to get with any other paper. Like if it were drawing paper or charcoal paper or watercolor or whatever. Bristol, for what I've noticed, seems to work the best for the result I want. And that goes back to the whole thing about how you really need to test your materials in order to get the look correct. I brought this out last episode with the resin mask with the foam and whatnot. There's multiple different ways I could have done this. There's actually some methods out there that involve some cardboard cutouts and form together to make the helmet, and then over that you use Bondo auto filler, which is basically it's a, I don't know what compounds it is, but it's for auto bodywork on cars. And I've seen a lot of tutorials for a lot of people that have done helmets, armor, using those stuff. And that's one route I've considered going. But as far as a cost standpoint goes, the foam seems to work the best. And assuming you know and have learned the techniques, it's not that hard to do. So you just need some good patterns. You need to really understand your materials and how they work, and so on and so forth. Getting some water here. I'm thirsty. Water's good. Water's really good. But moving on from that, I would say for anyone who's aspiring to be an artist, the next thing after that, after you've you have that inspiration, that first initial want for creativity. Got a hair on my thing. And creativity, and then you figure out, okay, materials and how they work and whatnot. I would say the next part after that is really trying to figure out, what do you want to create? What kind of style, what kind of things do you want to make? For me, that's a part that I really have not figured out. And I don't know if I'll ever figure it out because there's so many mediums that I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with pencil. I'm doing marker. Right now I'm learning about paint. I'm doing foam stuff. I recently, about a year and a half ago, got into leatherworking. I'm doing that. I've also gotten into the whole, doing a little bit of watercolor here and there. More as a practice and more to just experiment. Excuse me. But I haven't really locked down any particular kind of medium I want to do. Um, I don't think I ever will because there's so many things that I like making. I really do. I love making leather stuff. I love making foam stuff. I love drawing things, and that's a thing that I think people need to realize when they're learning about becoming artists is that what drives them to what materials speak to them as far as creating art and whatnot. What speaks to you? Some people it's photography. Some people it's digital art like Photoshop or Illustrator or what are the other ones out there? There's plenty out there. Um, you might be more of a traditional artist. I have my future brother-in-law, for example. It's not his professionalism, but his hobby is blacksmithing, which I think is really fantastic. And he's created some things that are really, really cool. Um, some cutlery, some knives, for example, and he loves it. That's his medium. Um, so yeah, um, do what you feel like you want to do. Um, God, I got an itch on my nose. Um, and after you figured out what kind of style you want to do, just go for it. Um, there's nothing holding you back at that point. Um, you have the inspiration, you understand the materials, you have different methods and mediums on how to create different stuff. Um, at that point, there's nothing stopping you. So just go ahead and just do it, is what I'd have to say. Um, and don't be afraid. God, my nose is itchy. I hate when this happens. Because it happens during my game recordings too. My nose will itch, or I'll cough, or my voice will get, groggy and everything. The life of a video artist. What was I gonna say? Oh yes. Uh, so you got everything there. What's stopping you? Nothing. Actually, I know what's stopping you. A lot of artists, when they're first starting out, and this is where I was going before, is they're afraid to mess up. Don't be afraid to mess up. I mess up all the freaking time. Um, hence why I'm testing so many different aspects of what I'm doing. Um, God, nose. Okay. Ugh. There. I think it's okay for right now. Darn nose. Don't be afraid to mess up, is all I can say. Artists make mistakes all the freaking time. All the time. And I cannot say that enough. People may think that, like Da Vinci, for example, didn't make mistakes. Not the case. I bring Da Vinci up so many times because he is a huge reference point of what artists can achieve if they believe in themselves. Also, to not feel overburdened. And I say this for a very specific reason. We all know and believe that Da Vinci was a fantastic artist and probably was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, that has ever lived. But with that comes a very interesting backstory in that Da Vinci painted what we believe to be only about 15 different masterpieces over his lifetime. Only 15. I've created more pieces, more finished works than that are pretty fantastic in their own right. Same with thousands, if not millions, of other artists. Da Vinci only 15 masterpieces. You want to know what the huge amount of work that he has? something like 9,000 different sketches, if not more, kind of thing, of just things, anatomy, different aspects of art, machines, really everything he studied, he drew. That is why his sketchbooks are so sought after, because they really capture an essence of constant practice for even someone who's experienced as Da Vinci. And I'm thoroughly convinced that maybe he did blind contours. I don't think he did all blind contours. I think there's plenty of times in which he went out and he observed and he drew what he saw, which is what he did. There is very strong and compelling evidence, even through his work, that that's what he did. There's very few contour drawings in the sketchbooks and sketches that I've seen from Da Vinci's work. But then again, he wasn't a traditional artist. In the aspect of he went against the grain on how you do a lot of paintings and traditional work. I do the same, in many regards. And I'm not comparing myself to Da Vinci. In no way am I that fantastic or great, but artists over time develop, after they've learned all the basics, they develop their own sense of, what's right or wrong to them. I, for example, as soon as I get out of college, will probably not ever do contour drawings again. I hate them, and I think, personally for me, I think they're useless. Up until a certain point, they are useful up until a certain point, and then I feel like they become useless because you've then, over time, begun to train your brain on how to look at an object, draw it, look it back and forth, and really observe from the object to the paper on how to draw stuff. And I know a lot of art, like teachers and artists out there, would disagree with me on this. But I really think that, training your brain in terms of hand-eye coordination, that's important. But what's really important is also being able to see the shapes in what you're drawing. And you don't just do that with contour designs. You do that with actual observation of the piece, and then you draw it with looking, not a contour, not a blind contour, and you're really going back and forth with that. But don't be afraid to make mistakes, is what I'm thinking. We all start out drawing stick figures or drawing landscapes and whatnot that are really, really flat. But it's with constant practice and determination and inspiration, along with the knowledge and skills that you learn along the way, that really define your abilities as an artist. Talent goes with that, but really a lot of it is skill. And that's why I think anybody can be, an artist if they put their mind to it. I'm going to end the episode here, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoy this video and this video series so far. Feel free in the comments below to leave comments, also different topics of what you want to discuss about the art world. And don't just rage. If you disagree with what I'm saying, politely and methodically tell me that you disagree. And don't just say, I disagree. Give reasons. Think creatively and constructively on how you disagree with it. And if you agree, thanks. Wonderful. But honestly, guys, thank you all so much for the support on these videos and whatnot. Later on, also for all of you people that watch my video games, I will be bringing back the series of Lego Lord of the Rings a little bit, as well as Lego Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. So don't worry, I haven't forgotten about those series. Same with the Third Age Total War, Elves of Lorien campaign, haven't forgot about that. So don't fret. Thank you all for watching, guys. Leave a like and comment on the videos. If you're new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all next time. May the force be ever in your favor. See you guys.